What was that?
That was so good.
Don't forget to press your sport coat.
The producers got me going this morning. That was
This
hilarious.
was
Welcome
great.
to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And now proudly waking up with AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show. And if you're tuning in from the Springs and wondering what's up, well, we're Colorado born and raised, both of us. We hit the issues that matter locally, statewide, and nationally. We like to keep it lively when we do it, and we want to hear from you. So give us a call at 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line at 720-819-5115. We are fired up. Billy and I love being on the air in the Springs, and glad you'll be sticking with us, and hopefully you can be a part of the debate as well. Well, Billy, we covered this story on Friday. We said this guy was going to be sentenced. John Halford, sentenced for the Return to Nature funeral home debacle that left 189 decomposing bodies in a building southwest of Colorado Springs. Well, I emailed the DA down there, Michael Allen. I just said, hey, did you prosecute this guy? And were you in the courtroom on Friday when the sentence was leveled out? And would love to get the details on this. So you're not going to want to miss this conversation, which is going to be important because he's going to be the Republican nominee for Attorney General, facing possibly Jenna Griswold in a general election. So you want to get to know Michael Allen. This guy is very, very talented, and he'll give us the latest on this case. By the way, the text messages, Billy, are just so funny.
Yes, they are. They're fantastic today.
So funny. Everything from Super Bowl, I went to the Melania movie and dinner. Then I watched the Turning Point event later. I'm not going to watch the NFL until they correct course, to basically you all are a bunch of racists for not embracing Bad Bunny.
Yeah,
so,
they're
all
over
over
the
the
place. That's why we love you guys.
Now is time for the news.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good morning. Monday, 40 with some cloudy conditions in Denver, 43 in the Springs, expecting highs in the upper 60s today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story: police in Thornton say they've taken a suspect into custody after a hit and run that killed 14-year-old Jaden Marujo, who was riding his motorized bike. His uncle, Elliot Benali, says Jaden was loved throughout his school and community.
He's a good kid. I mean, he's a big kid with a bigger heart. He was loved in the community a lot, especially by his school, everybody there, his football coaches, his teammates, his friends.
The crash happened Saturday night near Thornton Parkway and Huron when a speeding BMW hit Marujo from behind and drove off. Investigators are still asking anyone with information to contact Thornton police. Seahawks win Super Bowl 60, 29-13. Seahawks running back Kenneth Walker, he earned Super Bowl MVP honors, 160 total yards, caught some passes out of the backfield and rushed. Walker became just the 8th running back in league history to win the MVP. His 135 yards on the ground were the most by a player in Super Bowl history since TD. Terrell Davis in 1998, Super Bowl 32. Walker had to bounce back from an injury early in his career.
When a doctor told me I couldn't play no more, I just thought, football was over. That's what I was doing all my life. So it was a shocking moment.
Good story. And Mike McDonald, head coach for Seattle, almost left coaching for corporate America, but stayed the course.
I believe God called me to be a coach, and I listened to him, and I thank him. And we are incredibly blessed to be Seahawks, to be 12s, and now we're world champions.
Good for him. Congratulations. The search for Savannah Guthrie's mother is stretching into day 9 in southern Arizona. Over the weekend, Savannah and her siblings posted a video saying they would pay for the return of their mother, Nancy. KGUN 9, KGUN Channel 9 in Tucson reported ransom notes sent to news outlets demanded $6 million in Bitcoin with a deadline set for later today. Stay tuned. Ghislaine Maxwell will give a deposition over the phone today before the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Maxwell, Epstein's madam, is serving a 20-year federal sentence for her role in recruiting and trafficking victims for Epstein. His attorney told News Nation she plans to plead the fifth. Her attorney, I think I may have said his attorney, but her attorney. A Colorado Springs veteran marked a major milestone Sunday, celebrating his 101st birthday. Master Sergeant Edwin Ed Beck served nearly 30 years in the U.S. Army and is a veteran of World War II, the Korean and Vietnam War.
I'm just lucky to be alive. The good Lord been with me. I'm just proud to be an American and I can serve my country.
Amen to that. Family and friends gathered to honor Beck's service and longevity as he reflected on his life. Cavs at the Nuggets tonight in NBA action. 43 in the Springs, 42 in Denver. Actually 40 right now. More of the Jeff and Bill show ahead on News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver, and now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The week will start off, well, where we left the weekend, very, very mild. High pressure and above average temperatures will continue, although the high pressure is slowly weakening, and the weather patterns are going to change in Colorado mid to late week, especially in the high country, where the high country is going to finally get back into the snow again. But for the Front Range, we're going to be unseasonably warm. Denver and Colorado Springs will see temperatures well up into the 60s again today. 30s tonight, although will be a touch cooler. 50s Tuesday and 50s and lower 60s Wednesday with increasing clouds. Then more noticeably cooler, temperatures beginning to trend down by Thursday and Friday, along with a chance for a few rain or snow showers along the Front Range, with snow returning to Colorado's high country mid to late in the week, and that trend will continue through most of the week into late Friday. Otherwise, continue to expect unseasonably mild temperatures and dry conditions again for the beginning of the week. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show. Saw this headline Friday after the program, Bill. So we talked about John Halford being sentenced on Friday. This was
and we had a
dude.
completely inappropriate discussion at 6 o'clock in the morning.
That's right.
And that was mostly my fault.
So many angry text messages.
So many. So many. I might have had a conversation with somebody
Bill
in charge.
going, return to nature. That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe while people are having breakfast, you don't describe things in as much detail.
Return to Nature Funeral Home had left 189 decomposing bodies in a building southwest of Colorado Springs. And, bro, not only is that terrible, but then misleading all the families.
Yes.
So you lose somebody, right? And you, oh my gosh, it's just heartbreaking.
It's awful.
You're mourning, you're sad, there's depression, there's frustration, there's questioning. And so you entrust the body of your loved one to a funeral home, like Return to Nature Funeral Home. And then you're expected, like, for instance, if you're going to do cremation, to get back the ashes of your actual loved one. But no.
That's kind of the deal when you give them monies, that you're going to get back the ashes of your actual loved one. And I understand that there is some idea of, the ashes are ashes. No, the issue is that the importance that you place on this, that is the remains of that person that was really important inside of your life. And many times those ashes and those urns hold either a special place inside the house or even are interred and so put into a burial site. My father was cremated, and we put his ashes in the ground in the graveyard, and there is a headstone there. And it is, again, for me, wonderful use of space. We don't have to worry about all the big things. It's a wonderful use of space, and it's great that I can still go and visit him. If I found out that what was inside there weren't necessarily his remains and were just the scrapings off of, the bottom of some, boiler or some emptying out a cigarette ashtray, you lose that personal connection to those remains that are there. Yeah, now you're just looking at that going, I'm here with a rock in the ground, and there's no necessarily strong personal connection to the stuff that we buried here. That is a betrayal of what you are supposed to be doing. It is awful.
So the guy that was doing all this, John Halford, sentenced to 40 years in state prison on Friday. This is in addition to the fact he's already been sentenced to 20 years in federal prison for conspiracy to commit wire fraud charges. Well, one of the guys that prosecuted all this and helped with the sentencing is the district attorney from the 4th Judicial District down in El Paso County. He's also running for Attorney General here in Colorado. Michael Allen joins us. Good morning, Michael. Thank you for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Good morning to both of you, and I just want to say I hardly recognize you, Jeff, without your signature cowboy hat. What's going on here?
I know. It's up with
That's exactly right. I should be wearing that regularly. But, Michael, thank you, first of all, for representing families so well and getting justice for them. I know they appreciate that. Tell us about the case.
Yeah, you guys hit on, just the emotions associated with this case. This is something, dealing with death. It's something that humans have been honoring for thousands of years, essentially. We've always done things to make sure that those bodies are cared for and honored and preserved in a way that the families want them to be. And then there's a memory there that's connected to the person. And when you've got a business like these folks had, and they're intentionally defrauding these folks, that's essentially what it comes down to, is that they were promising business services related to cremation, and then they just simply were not doing it. And the depth of emotion and victimhood in this group of people is something that is really unique. I've never experienced it in this way before. Murder cases are one thing. People, unfortunately, can understand, a murder case. They can't understand somebody dishonoring a life the way that these folks have done. And so, taking this case, it's actually interesting the way we got the case. The funeral home was actually located in Penrose, Colorado, which is in a county south of El Paso County. And at the time that the case came to fruition, the DA down there in the 11th Judicial District, Linda Stanley, was in all kinds of hot water. She eventually got disbarred. And so the FBI, in helping with the local investigators, reached out to me directly and said, hey, is there any way that we can give this case to you, because we don't want it to go to the 11th Judicial District where they're not going to be able to prosecute it, just because of how inept that particular DA was. And, I had heard about it in the news, but didn't know all the intricate details. So I said, you're going to have to give me a presentation to show that there's some connection to El Paso County. And as it turned out, there was enough of a connection. Their business was actually run out of El Paso County, and we were able to prosecute it here in the 4th Judicial District.
That's Michael Allen. He's the district attorney for the 4th Judicial District, which is El Paso County. Michael, I want to try to understand, and maybe we can't, but what was going through John Halford's mind? I mean, this is 189. Not what, like, I can't imagine one or two decomposing bodies lying around. But 189. It was so bad that the fluids from the bodies were staining the outside of the building.
And it was several inches deep as well, as what we were reading.
What was going on in this guy's mind?
Yeah. And how come we can't have part of the punishment for this dude be, here's a mop and a bucket, go clean this up? I mean, how come? I'm being facetious, but still, seriously.
Yeah, that particular facility was absolutely disgusting. It's something I've never seen before in over 20 years of prosecution, when you've got 189 bodies decomposing. And I want to also point out there were 2 bodies that were actually buried, but the bodies in the burial sites turned out to not be the people that were supposed to be buried there, including a veteran who was buried in military burial site.
Oh,
and so really what it comes down to is simply greed. Oftentimes with criminal cases, the very base nature of humanity is being greedy. They're trying to cut corners and make as much money as they can. And frankly, John Halford was living pretty high on the hog for a while, based off of getting money from victims and then not performing the services that would have cost some of that money from him. And it ultimately comes down to greed, I think. It's hard to get into criminals' minds and know exactly what they're thinking. But in my mind, it just comes down to just the most base human nature of being greedy and not caring who you hurt, no empathy for other people, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, imagine you got a chance to sit down and talk with this guy. What was he like? What would your gut tell you about him?
Yeah, I actually did not talk to him. So when this case first came up, he and his wife fled to Oklahoma. They actually got arrested on a Indian reservation down in Oklahoma by the FBI. And so by the time they got back into custody, there was not really, an opportunity to interview them. I've certainly seen enough of his actions. Thankfully, they had video cameras at the facility down in Penrose, and his actions inside that building were disgusting.
Tell me about those. Like, what do you mean, those actions?
Well, you can imagine, you've already talked about the bodily fluids being, collecting on the floor. It was definitely some depth to it. There was, insect activity all over the place. You can imagine the smell, and that's really what tipped this case off, was that businesses around the facility started to notice this overwhelming stench coming from the building. That's what led the investigators going to the place and finding all of this. And that didn't bother him in the least in these videos. He would go in, move body bags around, move people off of gurneys and whatnot, and seemed to have no effect on him, whereas the majority of us would probably be puking in a corner somewhere. And in fact, a lot of the people that had to work in that facility to clean it up, to catalog the evidence, to take pictures and just process the crime scene, really struggled with just the depravity associated with this, the stench associated with it, the bug activity, really just truly disgusting.
That's Michael Allen. We're talking about the sentencing of John Halford, who was sentenced to 40 years in state prison because of his treatment of 189 decomposing bodies in a funeral home called Return to Nature that was in southwest Colorado, southwest of Colorado Springs, and then misled families as well over the remains. And families, thought they were burying somebody. Sometimes it wasn't that person. Michael, I want to ask you, did this go to trial? Was it a plea deal? What were the details there?
Yeah, it ultimately resulted in a plea agreement. And I want to also point out, you mentioned this briefly, but I just want to tie this up a little bit in a bow. There were concurrent prosecutions going on. There was a federal prosecution based off of essentially him defrauding the government from COVID money, COVID relief money. They collected a bunch of money and then didn't use it the way that they were supposed to use it. So there was a prosecution there that resulted in a 20-year federal prison sentence. And then on our case, and that was a plea agreement too, and then on our case, we had a plea agreement as well, but it was a sentencing range of 30 to 50 years, and the judge ultimately settled on 40 years. We were asking for 50, and of course, defense was asking for the bottom end of that range. But it was a plea agreement. And, the difficulty with this case is, one, the level of charges, low-level felony cases, not the type of offenses by themselves that would automatically require prison. So probation would be on the table if we go to trial. These are not Victims' Rights Act cases, so technically victims did not have the ability to really weigh in, although we treated this case like a Victims' Rights Act case and made sure that we included victims. But I want to just point out, too, the depth of the hurt that these people faced was something, again, that I've never had to deal with in the past, because it's just so unique and really gets to the dishonor to their family members. And so the range of emotions that these folks have to work through, trying to wrestle with the reality that they don't know where their loved one is, because often these folks were actually getting concrete as opposed to human remains or ashes. So they bought hundreds of pounds of just dry concrete mix and would put those into the urns that they would give to the families and say that was the human remains. And later we determined it wasn't. So there's just a huge depth of emotion here that is really hard for these people to overcome. And it was tough for the judge too. And so it's hard to figure out, how do you slot this case into, other cases that are more common in the criminal justice system, like a murder case. When we're dealing with somebody that gets killed, you're going to get a huge prison sentence. This prison sentence by itself, 40 years, is actually longer than some prison sentences in the state of Colorado, depending on the different factors involved. So it's really hard to slot that in to the bigger scheme.
Did families get a chance to share their perspectives during the sentencing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We made sure that the court also treated them as aggrieved victims and made sure that they had the opportunity to weigh in on what was happening as well.
I'm glad you did that. What did you hear from those families?
Well, again, just a huge range of emotions. Some wanted us to go to trial on this case, and we were certainly prepared and able to go to trial if we needed to. I'm not sure that serves the greater interest, because it would have been probably a 2 or 3 month trial against 2 defendants. That's a huge expenditure of resources. But also, too, if you can avoid victimizing people and also avoid the appeals process that goes along with taking a case to trial and getting convictions, you get a better finality through a plea agreement. So, victims expressed everything from just anger, trauma that they've had to deal with. People can't sleep. They're having nightmares, or one person called it daymares even, that they'll have visions come into their mind during the daytime. Just horrific things. And it's really hard. It's hard to help those folks work through what they're dealing with.
And was there a range in the sense of the age of the victims here? Was it all just elderly, the bodies of elderly people? Or were there, I imagine if there were kids or even younger people, oh my goodness, I couldn't have, you would have to hold me back if you were treating the body of a young kid that whose body was mistreated. Can you talk about the range of the victims?
Yeah, it was a wide range. It was not just elderly people. It was younger people all the way through elderly people, people that died of natural causes. And what you're describing, Jeff, the emotion that you would feel about you'd have to be held back, that's how these folks felt. In one of the very first hearings on this case, the defendant, John Halford, was out of custody. And so when he left the building and is going to his attorney's office to meet with his legal representation, victims followed him and were really angry. I'm really glad that nothing physical transpired there, because that would have put people in a really difficult situation. But the anger towards these folks is, understandable at the very least.
I agree entirely with that. That's Michael Allen. He's the district attorney of Judicial District 4, represents El Paso County. Michael, this brings up larger policy questions. From my understanding, the regulation regulatory oversight of funeral homes and crematoriums and those types of things was not very strong. And this has been something that lawmakers have since stepped up. And look, I'm not a this is where I kind of break with libertarians. I go, there's a role for government here. I want the government overseeing funeral home directors, because it's not just this guy. I think there's been some problems in other parts of the states. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is it's a unique case, particularly because of the number of bodies. But we've now had a case out in western Colorado that preceded this case. That person was actually selling body parts from decedents, and so that person was prosecuted and sentenced. I think they got 20 years in that case. And then while this case has been pending, there was a coroner or a funeral home down in Pueblo. Same thing happened. Again, thankfully, not the same scope, not the same number of bodies were discovered, but exactly the same thing, where they were promising cremation services and then not following through. So they had a number of bodies down in Pueblo in their funeral home that were decomposing. So the result of it is that working with legislators, and specifically Matt Soper out on the western slope in Grand Junction area, he was one that was really spearheading this, got some requirements for funeral home operators to be licensed, essentially, so that there's more government oversight. And I agree with you, Jeff. I'm not a big government guy by any stretch, but there is definitely a role for government in certain areas. Public safety is one of those. Regulating funeral homes obviously was needed, and we've got some better protections based off of this particular case.
Michael Allen running as well for Attorney General. Michael, let's switch now and address that. You likely could be facing either Michael Dougherty or Jenna Griswold. Please, for the love of God, do not keep Jenna Griswold in any statewide office, let alone the Attorney General's. I mean, look, this should be easily disqualifying. Go to the U.S. Supreme Court and lose 9-0. If you do that, you shouldn't be the Attorney General of any state. Now Jenna Griswold wants to do that. Let's talk about your run for Attorney General. It seems like it's going to be an easy question, but why are you best equipped to be the next Attorney General of Colorado?
Well, the fact of the matter is that from just a practical perspective, the odds are that it will be Jenna Griswold coming out of the Democrat primary. And you just mentioned she got spanked 9-0 by the U.S. Supreme Court, keeping Trump off the ballot. And, people can have different opinions as to Trump as a candidate for president, but ultimately that's the people's choice, who they want to vote for president. She proactively prevented him from being on the ballot. That case went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and it is really rare. Let me just say that again. It's really, really rare for the U.S. Supreme Court to be unanimous on anything, and for them to be 9-0 against her position really speaks to the thin ice that she was on with that particular decision. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. She is a lawyer. You have to be a lawyer to run for Attorney General in Colorado. I've got over 20 years of prosecution experience. I've been in the courtroom. I've prosecuted lots of cases, including I've never lost a homicide case. Jenna Griswold has never been in court and has never actually practiced law. I think that should be a disqualifier by itself.
Leaking passwords and taking your
all kinds of
taking your talking points for Planned Parenthood and having massive staff turnover, and we can just keep going and keep going. But I guess the bigger question I have with the role of the Attorney General is I look at Phil Weiser right now, and what's Phil doing? Suing the president. And I go, is that the role of the Attorney General, to just sit there and rack up as many lawsuits against a political opponent as you possibly can?
Yeah, I mean, it can be, depending on the circumstances, but when you've got over 50 lawsuits filed against the president's administration, that is just purely politically motivated lawfare. There's no reason to be filing these lawsuits. I'll give you one really good example. we all know that the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. That means that the president gets to make determinations as to where bases are located and that kind of thing. And, you can agree or disagree, but the president decided to move Space Command out of Colorado Springs and move it down to Alabama. The Attorney General decided it was a good idea to file a lawsuit against the commander-in-chief of the armed forces over that decision. And that is just a ridiculous position to take. And so that's how you know that these lawsuits are really politically motivated. They're really designed to advance our current Attorney General's political perspectives and chances to become the governor of the state of Colorado. They're not actually designed to protect the people of Colorado. That's really what the Attorney General's office should be doing, is making sure that the people of Colorado's interests are protected and upheld. And when lawsuits need to be filed to protect the people of Colorado, then it's the right thing to do. But if it is just politically motivated lawfare, like what we've seen out of our current Attorney General, that's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, and with all the crime problems we're dealing with, I mean, is there a role for the Attorney General in prosecuting criminals in this state? Because it seems like with Phil Weiser, it's just how much can I sue the president?
Yeah, it does seem like that, and you're exactly right. The crime issues that we've got in this state are something that needs to be taken much more seriously, and our Attorney General has been distracted by that, and frankly, based off of Jenna Griswold taking that position on the president being on the ballot, we would see even more of that if she were to win the Attorney General's race.
Please, voters of Colorado, do not give Jenna Griswold another office, especially since she did so poorly in this existing one. Let's not send her into the Attorney General's office. Good night. And look, we could talk as well about the treatment of people like Jack Phillips and Lori Smith with 303 Creative, and now this counseling case down there where it just feels like what should be offices that are about fair treatment under the law become weaponized to go after political opponents, to go after Christians, in the case of Jack Phillips and others, and it becomes about everything else other than actually putting bad guys behind bars. Well, Michael Allen, I really appreciate your time today. Your website, michaelallenforcolorado.com, michaelallenforcolorado.com. And Michael, thank you for getting justice for families down in the Colorado Springs area. This man, John Halford, was a monster the way he treated these families. You got justice. This guy is behind bars. That's a testimony to your leadership, and I appreciate your time today, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's absolutely fantastic what you did for the families. And on a little side note here, taking a little aside like you do in the court thing, that it's a really, really good argument when you're talking about the lack of experience Jenna has inside of the courtroom, especially when you want to be AG. I mean, I know that I'm telling you something that is absolutely, intuitively obvious to even the most casual observer, that yes, maybe if you want to be the AG of the state, you should have some time inside of the courtroom. Watching, Law and Order can't be the most experience you have seeing the inside of a courtroom when you want to be AG. Just saying. But I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for all you do.
I need to take you out on the campaign trail, Bill.
Hey, I will be there, man. I'm just telling you, I'm happy to make a spectacle of myself.
Bill's going to end up in all these political commercials. Lauren Boeberts. Yeah, there you go. All right, Michael Allen, great work. Thank you for your time. Again, his website, so michaelallenforcolorado.com, michaelallenforcolorado.com. Go support him. Otherwise, awesome. Jenna Griswold, who loses 9-0 at the U.S. Supreme Court, is going to be the Attorney General.
I do not endorse candidates, but I would say that if we come down to those two, experience inside a courtroom is probably a good way to decide who will be the most effective in that position. But if that's not what you want, you're free to choose whatever you want. Go right ahead. But, that may be how I choose. I'm not endorsing anybody, but maybe how I choose if it comes down to it.
Billy, the most prolific use of political advertisements across the state of Colorado.
I should get some residuals in this.
Because Victor Marks puts you in his.
I know.
I think Lauren Boebert's going to put you in hers.
Shut up with
Michael
all these
out,
ads.
and you're the independent.
I know. And I'm going to be in all these. I need residuals. That's what I need
go.
to talk to my. First, I need to get an agent. Then I need to talk to my agent.
All right, let's talk Black Eyed Pea of Colorado, locally owned and operated by Steve and Michelle. My whole family loves this restaurant. Yours will too. Now with 9 locations, there's sure to be one near you. They recently opened in Fort Collins. You can visit them at 807 East Harmony Road. This is the restaurant you want to take the whole family to. The Black Eyed Pea, home-style cooking, worth going out for. They make everything from scratch, slow-cooked pot roast and meatloaf, chicken fried steak and chicken tenderloins, grilled salmon and grilled or fried shrimp. They've got daily specials, senior discounts. Gentlemen, get in closely to the radio. Valentine's Day is Saturday. Yep, Saturday. If you're trying to get a reservation to restaurants, it's going to be challenging at this time. But you can still get out to the Black Eyed Pea. And, guys, they do catering, Grubhub, pick it up, that type of thing. Delicious dinner right at home. Your dinner party, rehearsal dinner, wedding reception, or company event can be a success with a Black Eyed Pea. I'm telling you, I love everything about this restaurant, and that chocolate cake will go very far on Valentine's Day. So keep it in Colorado. Visit the Black Eyed Pea near you. BlackEyedPeaColorado.com. That's BlackEyedPeaColorado.com. All right, more to come. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show. Michael's a good guy.
Yeah, he is. Michael's awesome.
Down to earth, not super political, not looking to pick fights, just wants justice.
Yeah. And he really did it with
families. My goodness.
And you could see how much it bothered him. He was like, this is just ridiculous.
Well, and to his point, by the way, we're talking about John Halford being sentenced to 40 years in state prison. And then on top of that, there's another 20 years in federal prison. This dude left 189 decomposing bodies in a building southwest of Colorado Springs. This is the worst. So you got 3 problems right now with funeral homes in Colorado. They finally have created a regulatory structure around them. But to that point, there's a picture in the Gazette. There's a picture in the Gazette of this dude walking. So John Halford's on the left. He's the owner of Back to Nature Funeral Home. 189 decomposing bodies, including kids.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's just awful. It's just, ugh.
Bro.
So
and there's this woman that's being held back by another woman as she's just ripping into this guy. Yep, 100%. I'd be there too.
Oh, yeah, I would be too.
You'd feel my fists.
Yeah.
They ain't the strongest, but you sure would feel them for what you did to the family members of my kids.
Yeah.
Bodies of my kids.
It's ridiculous because it's the idea of, and anybody that has gone through that end of life planning, you understand dealing with the people there at the funeral home and the mortuary that there is supposed to be a level of care and professionalism because they are supposed to help guide you because you're at this journey of the end of your loved one's life. And you don't know, you've probably not done this before. And if you have done this a number of times, may want to get some things in your family checked. But the thing is that most of us don't have that experience. And so you're looking at this person to treat this final moment with your loved one with some care and respect so that you can say goodbye. And then to find out that they were just stacking them like logs in a room and just letting them decompose and going so far, as Michael Allen, DA in El Paso County, pointed out, to buy concrete and then pass that off as the remains of the people that they were charged with this end-of-life care and procedure for. That's another level of deceit that's a little hard to wrap your head around because they've gone so far, not just to be, maybe I've seen the things in the past, and we've seen them too, Jeff, where they're just, because of space or whatever it is, they're just chucking a whole bunch of bodies in there, and then they're just scraping out of the cremation. They're just scraping whatever remains it is, whatever ashes is out of there. These clowns weren't even going that far to disposing of the bodies and then just mixing everybody's ashes together. They weren't even using ashes. Yeah, it was concrete. They weren't even doing the base level of the service, which is just ridiculous.
And then what about the military buries the wrong body?
Yeah, that too.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. That the wrong body in a military cemetery. Wrong body that is buried there. And again, that's what I talk about, the idea of imagine that it was your loved one. Whatever you've done to say goodbye, regardless if it's bury the body, bury the cremation remains, or even just have the cremation remains somewhere in a very special place in your house at home, whatever you've decided to do with it, what does it do when you realize that's not my loved one? In fact, it's probably not even any person at all. It's just concrete. I mean, think about the level of betrayal. And the other part is that person that was so special that you have interred in the ground, when you go and visit that space, it's no longer really them. I mean, you might as well just stand in the parking lot and talk to them rather than going and visit the gravesite. It is just taking it away from you.
Think about the differences that voters are going to have right now.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now, Michael Doherty's a prosecutor, so he's gotten justice.
Yeah.
Michael Allen, a prosecutor. Okay. Jenna Griswold, what is your experience that you should be the next Attorney General of Colorado? I hate Trump more than the rest of them.
That is a good one.
And voters will go, yay, that's the person. Here you have at least two guys that have put this type of trash, John Halford, behind prison. And rightfully so. He deserves 40 years. He's very lucky he got 40 years. Should be a lifetime sentence.
Yeah.
But this trash, he got cleaned up because of guys like Michael Allen. Michael Dougherty's prosecuted that as well. Jenna, what have you done? I went to the Supreme Court. I made the argument that Trump shouldn't be on ballot. Oh, 9-0 smackdown.
The people that are running,
congratulations.
The people that are running against Jenna need to lean hard into her lack of trial experience. And fortunately enough, we have a decent recent example in our current Attorney General, Phil Weiser. Phil didn't have a ton of prosecutorial experience at all when he got into that job. And some of the highest profile cases here in Colorado, he shopped and went outside of the state to get prosecutors to come in on our dime to lose cases. And some of the people that he put in these cases, that he put as lead prosecutors or assistants, had zero experience trying the type of cases that A.G. Weiser assigned them to. Now, that's going to be important. Regardless of your politics, having someone in that AG's office that is at least competent enough to identify the strong prosecutors in their office and here in Colorado. And if you do have to go outside of your pool to get people whose experience specifically are applicable to the cases you're going to have them charge and prosecute, that seems to be of utmost importance. But we have some recent examples when A.G. Weiser went shopping outside of state. You and I picked up all of those expenses, and he lost.
And then we lost.
And he lost. You can make a case that, hey, I brought in these highfalutin silk stocking lawyers from out of town because I had to make sure I got a conviction. You don't do it when you have your hired gun comes in town. You spend more on them, and you lose. Loser. That's the problem. And that's the recent history that should be pointed out by everybody running against Jenna Griswold for Attorney General. Everybody should be pointing that out.
All right, let's talk good lawyers. Dan Kaplis at Dan Kaplis Law. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everybody involved in the case. Dan Kaplis, the son of a police officer and a former seminarian, he's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who've been hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. In fact, Dan Kaplis Law got that giant $200 million verdict for the family that lost their daughter in the Glenwood Springs amusement park accident. He discovered that the amusement park company knew about the alarms and trained their employees to work around the alarms. Dan Kaplis Law is so trusted. He's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. 303-770-5551. 303-770-5551 or hit dankaplislaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. More of the Jeff and Bill show to come. You're listening to News Talk 710, KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. All on the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
Hey, guys, I want to talk to you out there. As we get older, gentlemen, things change. Maybe you haven't been feeling like yourself, more tired, more fatigued, more stressed than you want to admit. And Billy and I, both feeling it, both deciding to do something about it.
Yes, we did. We are visiting with our friends at Game Day Men's Health. They do this thing a little bit differently. You've heard about those men's health clinics. Some that do the T-shots, the testosterone, stuff like that. First thing is Game Day Men's Health. It is not about a corporate feel. They're not about numbers. They're about a personal relationship. It's more like hanging out with a friend of yours. It's small offices. They've got a couch in there. You've got TV you can watch. But more importantly, they are concerned about you. As we change, our bodies change. And Game Day Men's Health can help give you that spark again. If you feel like middle of the afternoon, early evening, you just don't got it, you can't get out of second gear, Game Day Men's Health is the solution.
Absolutely. They got locations in Aurora, Cherry Creek, Parker, Inglewood, and Thornton. Billy and I teaming up to help the men out there. And by the way, I had a family member that went with another company previously, and they made him sign up for year-long commitments.
What?
Not the case with Game Day. It's month by month, right?
How do you know this is going to work for you? So we're going month by month. We're going to make sure this works.
We are helping guys be better dads, better husbands, and better men. Check out Game Day Health in Aurora, Cherry Creek, Parker, Inglewood, and Thornton. Those are great guys. All right, coming up, Justin Folk, director of What is a Woman and Am I Racist, as well as an award-winning Super Bowl commercial, is going to join us, and we're going to dive into the best from last night. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS.
And The Answer in Colorado Springs.